This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. I'm sitting here in Zurich, and Tim Dahl is in Brooklyn, and our guest tonight is also in Zurich. Dejan Gacond, a poet and the king of the Kaleidoscope of Nothingness. All right, Tim, a lot of
Yes.
bullshit happening in the news, and I have to say I am impressed and depressed. I find it fucking hilarious and awful at the same time.
I think this is just the calm before the storm. I just don't see.
I cannot see
This
how
just kind of like just having a safe landing from where we're at.
First of all, the orange ass clown visits some of the most corrupt countries on the planet,
Yeah.
which he complained about in 2017
I know.
vociferously because he knows who they finance until they're financing him. And I don't know, is Elizabeth Warren sleeping on the job? I mean, she's complaining, but is somebody going to step up and just go, this is worse than Nixon ever was?
I've said it before. They're the Democratic establishment party. They're getting tons of money from donors, and they're told to basically sit put, or just sit there. Stay put, I meant to say.
And let it fall apart.
And they're like, oh, it'll collapse on itself, and then you'll have all the power. Well, and I think that's a dangerous strategy. I mean,
absolutely. But there are a few Republicans that are actually having to stand up and go, this is an absolute freaking outrage. Well, there has never been anything this absolutely outright, openly corrupt.
This is the analogy I would have. It's like, they want all this stuff. They have a super majority. And it'd be like you're way ahead in some sports game, like say American football, and then for no reason you start throwing like Hail Mary passes. It's like, what? Why do you just sit there? It makes no sense.
Why don't we take it to what the fucking orange ass clown said? It's like somebody offers you a free putt on the golf course. You don't say no, you take it and thank them. And the thing is this, it's going to cost more to decontaminate or go in and infiltrate any possible surveillance on the plane they want to give this fool.
I know.
Because he's such an arrogant.
Well, it probably won't even be ready in time. It's going to take so long to even make it.
But the thing is, why is he there? Because they are so intelligent about kissing the ass of an ass clown just to get what they want, which whoever knows what they freaking want. And I mean, it's just getting more outlandish every single day. I don't even know what to say about it. I think it's an absolute outrage. And again, I do feel it in my witchy bones. Something's got to come down very soon.
It's sort of like a drought in California. It just takes one match and then off to the races. Something's going to spark. I just don't see how it's not going to. The question is, will martial law be declared? And that's going to be an interesting.
But I mean, martial law against what? I mean, actually, the Democrats declare martial law. The Democrats should declare martial law against the Republicans.
Wow,
it'd be amazing.
Did you see RFK swimming with his grandkids in sewage?
Well, that makes sense to me because he's full of shit. So why wouldn't he?
Yeah. What the hell? Oh my God. So Puff Daddy. His trial has started, and I mean, the lawyers finally decided who their jury was going to be. All we know it's 8 men and 4 women. There's a million reasons why they pick it, but it's off to the races. They're already seen him beating up his ex in the hallway film, and
well, look, the evidence is there, so it depends. I mean, obviously, I don't trust a jury. I don't trust the Supreme Court. I don't trust Congress. I don't trust politics. And I'm not sure this is going to go where it should go, but who knows? The thing is, the outrage is out there. He is in prison, so he's not hurting anybody else right at the moment. The damage has already been done.
Well, of course, there is a discussion of race in this, which is, how come all the Epstein Island guys are just walking around free?
And
then Puff Daddy is. When a black guy does it, he goes to jail. I mean, there's something to it. I mean, not to justify any of their actions, but
that's really a reductionary concept about it, because I mean, the criminality of all of this sexual abuse has been forever. And right. So Diddy's alive, and R. Kelly's alive, and hopefully Weinstein's almost dead, and Epstein, who had all the names of everybody, including 14 numbers for Trump,
well,
commit suicide.
Well, definitely didn't commit suicide. The question is he dead? I mean, because there was like a blackout for 2 hours, and then he's dead.
Well, and I don't know why Ghislaine doesn't just spill all the beans, but maybe she knows that she'll be killed if she does.
Yeah, she was in MDC down near my studio, the Municipal Detention Center, where Puffy's at, and where Luigi Mangioni's at, and a million other high profile criminals. But she's been relocated to Florida.
Well, no biggie.
Yeah, exactly.
No biggie Smalls, because there was another one that was assassinated
wow.
for a reason. Anyway, this life goes on. We, as the privileged white weirdos for now, are safe, unless you consider psychological torture and psychic torture and possible imprisonment in the near future. For now, we will remain the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl.
Yes, good we luck. Will. Yes.
This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, and the king of the Kaleidoscope of Nothingness, who I'm on tour with now in Switzerland, Dejan Gacond. Dejan, how do you even say your last name?
Gacond.
Gacond, as I said.
Perfectly, yeah.
Gacond is right.
My French is so good after being in nowhere at all. Anyway,
je parle en français un très peu, pardon.
Anyway, Dion and I just did an amazing show at a Cooper Modern gallery in Zurich together. Poetry is alive. Beautiful. Spoken word is alive.
Beautiful.
And Dion, let's go back to the beginning. I don't remember exactly when we met, but I remember the first show you put on, and it was with me and Brutal Measures at a metal festival, I believe.
It was, yeah, in 2013. So 12 years ago now.
Hey, was that in Chaux de Fonds where you live?
No, not far. It was in Le Locle.
Oh yes.
You came. You remember the snowstorm day?
The amount of because of the successful meeting between the two of you, I've gone to Chaux de Fonds probably total 4 or 5 other times.
Yeah,
but almost every time I go there's a fucking snowstorm. Not a blizzard. But it's just a little higher altitude, but it's not in the Alps for people that don't know what that is. But it's still high enough, and I don't know the weather systems. But when you're there,
right now, Tim, in Zurich, it's very warm. It was very sunny today, and also, this is interesting. This is just a trust the witch moment with which Dion got to experience twice in a car. Once with Sebastian and Hurtado and Dion, and once with just Dion and I. I think there's going to be rain, and in about 20 seconds there was 1 minute of rain 2 times. Trust the witch.
All right, but you two are in Zurich right now, and Zurich on a beautiful day is just a fucking spectacular city, I have to say.
Well, the drive from the Chaux de Fonds was amazing. It was so beautiful. Yeah, I have to say, it was. We took the country roads, and then tomorrow, where are we going tomorrow, Dion?
We're going to Bienne.
Oh,
Bienne, which is we're going to have one day at the lake, hanging out and making our conspirations for the coming years.
So Switzerland, I have to admit, when I first started going to Switzerland, I had this prejudice, like, oh, it's some country club, gated community. Maybe it's that, but it's still also very warm, open, hospitable.
And it's where anarchy, a lot of anarchy started here as well. So come on.
And
there's many reasons to be an anarchist here.
Transgressive bands, like Hellhammer, which was the seed to Celtic Frost, for instance. So let me ask you, because Dejan, you get your hands in so much stuff: literature, publishing, performance arts. You're kind of just out there with your music,
installations.
You're going and. If you want to be, correct me if I'm wrong, if you want to be lazy in Switzerland and sit back and do nothing, I think it's not like as cruel as the United States. I think you can kind of do that. But if you also want to be productive, you can really do that. And you chose the productive path. What drives you? What's the motivation?
to share poetry, I guess, to share my or to bring back literature where it's not supposed to be, maybe. I love, for example, to do a poetry performance in a theater, but sometimes enjoy even more to make it in a cafe or in a, I mean, where it's not supposed to be,
Sure.
Or in a bookstore like yesterday.
like the record store the other day, for example.
Today was it was an art gallery.
And today it was an art gallery. Maybe it's more coherent there, but still we bring something different or different.
Well, you know, Dejan, I mean, and you and Lydia share this because my experience, most writers are kind of shut-ins a lot of the times, and they're a lot of them are very introverted, and they could take some notes here, get it out there, and maybe is it because you're involved in music and other performance that you connect with these people and you want to bring it to the stage, or I mean, being an extrovert and being a writer, sometimes that's a dissonant combo. So it's interesting, but you've done that. Tell me about the
Kaleidoscope of Nothingness.
Well, sure, we can go in that direction. I was going to talk about the craft element. Besides your writing, you're very much in the details of the books themselves and how they look and how they're presented.
Yeah, I've been lucky to work also with great publisher or artist who like to do a small edition.
Yeah.
I mean, a certain numbers of copies, so you can really think about the object as well.
Yeah.
And beyond the object also, yeah, I think a lot about how I share words, and this is why in my installation I paint words because it's the visual part, but the performance.
Wait, Dejan, you can't understate what these installations of the Kaleidoscope of Nothingness are. May I describe? Usually when it's this, you enter a venue and every inch of the wall is covered in white paper with giant sentences in multilingual, multi-languages from Hubert Selby, Henry Miller, Dion, myself, whoever. And it is like you are walking into a large book, which is kind of phenomenal, as well as the art of Kit Brown, who designs woodblock paintings on suitcases, on images. So it is like really when you walk into not every performance we do, but the Kaleidoscope of Nothingness is like you are walking into a living book.
It's true, yeah, it can be a living book, it can be walking into a brain or
walking into a brain.
Or some, it's also linked with what we kind of know about physics and infinity. This is why it's named Kaleidoscope and Nothingness. Like it's where you have too much, maybe you have nothing anymore, and when you have nothing, you have already everything. Or this.
I want to describe a performance I saw with you when James Johnston and I did a show with you. I think it was in Le Chaux de Fonds at the place we had lunch the other day, the ABC. Correct me if I'm wrong if that wasn't the place. But you were on stage with a desk, with books and a typewriter. Kit Brown, who does a lot of the artwork for this, was silk screening. And then there was somebody else doing some industrial noise. I don't know what they were doing. And James Johnson and you were reading from books and you had a collection of books that are some of your favorite while typing. And we're like, this is either the most ridiculous or one of the best things we ever saw. And then we decided it was probably one of the best things we ever saw.
Amazing.
It was very fucking cool and weird.
Dejan, and I feel like I can relate to you in this way. When you fall in love with something, like for me, it was music, or you fall in love with literature, and even if you just take the smallest ingredient of intention, that triggers this imagination explosion in your brain. I mean, even some crappy music I'll listen to, there'll be one idea, and I can take from that and just expand, and it's a creative surge, and make it better. Almost make the things that are gifts better and honor those gifts. And it really sounds like that's what you've done. Whether, I mean, how magical was a book for you when you were a child? So just the presentation of the book alone is an exaggeration of just what that's stimulated in your brain as a child, and that's cool because it's giving back is the way I interpret that. And I think,
and again, this is where Dejan and I relate, because literature was what inspired me to do what I do. But I have to talk about this book, Dejan, that you wrote. I don't know if it's come out yet or when it's coming out. Nobody, which you are writing about Antonin Artaud and myself. Can you explain a little about what you think the parallels or the differences are? Because this is such a fascinating concept to me, knowing you as I do.
Yeah, this is a long process, it's a long project, and I mean, I have always been fascinated by the body in arts and in culture, and even in societies, how the relationship to bodies tell a lot about what is possible or not in a society, or etc. And I'm very interested into counterculture, and Artaud has always been very important for me. So you are very important for me, and when I started to
what do you think
about...
the parallels? What are the parallels and what are the differences? Because this is what's so fascinating to me. Because Artaud also to me is very important because of just his philosophy, theater of cruelty, insanity, and we are not institutionalized yet.
But what fascinates me is how two artists, two bodies in two different places at two different time, and who have a complete opposite relation to their body, how come you come to the same kind of intensity, the same kind of anger, violence, and also the same influence on other artists? Maybe more than audience sometimes.
Well, collective. Are you talking about collective consciousness, the arrival or parallel human experience? I mean, this happens all the time, including, which really this is what blows my mind, the history of agriculture, 12, 14,000. There's a period of about 150 years across all hemispheres where there's no civilizations, these different civilizations and populations, no communication, all come to the same conclusion of planting seeds and modern agriculture. There's something else going on with the human psychic brain here. I mean,
well,
too many cases of this. I mean,
they're right. The different planes of consciousness, quantum or not, are where some people do coalesce. Absolutely. And I think this is what Dejan is touching on in this book. He's written much study of, and mentioning many other artists as well, that connects this different level of, as you said, collective consciousness over different time periods and different time period, different frames of reference that come together to equal the same kind of intensity, politics, creation, meaning.
Yes, I try to dig all of these kind of what you mentioned, and of course also the where things emanated from are very important. Like we were talking about Zurich before. The Dada movement was partly created in Zurich during World War One. So I mentioned this, like Switzerland was a kind of bubble in the middle of this big war, and many people escaped. I mean, hide here, and they could create something very, really angry or really absurd or really different. And
that's what I love, angry and absurd, because I do consider myself a Dadaist. I consider no wave Dada more than most other movements, and I do find absurdity and the most outrageous and stupid, especially of American acceptance and behaviors. So I feel I'm a true Dadaist. No way.
Well, you're part actionist too.
As well.
Yeah, I mentioned the actionist as well.
Yeah, you're part. But that's Vienna. That's Vienna.
Rats into the audience.
I mean, these are just incredible things.
Yeah, but you also things float always at different time, also, or sometimes at the same time and at different places. Like,
well, that's what we're talking about. I work with this Japanese Buto dancer, and Japanese Buto dance comes out at the same time as American free jazz, which is, and it's kind of the same philosophy. It's kind
completely different and completely the same at the same time, which is what makes things extremely interesting. And I find the same thing in my work. Like, it seems extremely harsh and negative, but at the underneath of it is extremely compassionate and loving. So figure it out for yourself. Can you take it or not? And that's the same with surrealism, with Dadaism, with free jazz. I mean, this is the connective, and Buto. It's a connective tissue between all of us. Dejan, would you like to read us a poem now?
Actually, I thought I could read the very beginning of this text.
That'd be great.
You do whatever you want.
Yes, you're with us.
Dada.
You can do anything.
I'll try. Labels. It's about defining ourselves, about fitting in a category that can only exist in relationship with another one. A translation of the urban, biological, and bodily organization. Since Linné, it is like this: to name, to position ourselves. An identity construction of being imposed by his possession and his action. We talk about classes, movements, spaces, concept, profession. Everything is to be explained. Nothingness, madness, dreams, art, music, mental wandering. The world is uncontrollable. The world is kaleidoscopic, meaningless, absurd. We have been nano-categorized. Our identities have been pixelized, digitized, fragmented, outsourced. Demons of the past are being thrown fast forward on our digital tablets. Our submnemonic areas are subjected to an avalanche of images sent with a fast connection into our tired eyes. However, from an opiate escape to an alcoholic dream, from a blood chemically modified to an acceptable and psychotropic perception of the real, a possible world can be envisaged.
Exactly. And thank you, because your work is also very hallucinogenic. And again, traversing these various spheres and phases of reality. Because again, back to the absurdity and the intensity of whatever it is that you're going to make from it. And right now, especially in this time in history, we have choices to make, such as, it's so freaking stupid what's happening in so many places. Thank you, America. But do we choose to then be subsumed by the thumb of the oligarchy and political bullshit and corruption? Or do we then say, like our history inspires us, we revolt with music, art, and literature?
And that's the Aristotle point. Once you reach oligarchy, there's two realities: tyranny or a revolution.
And hello.
That's it.
I was a natural born revolutionary, as we all were on this podcast.
Now it might seem banal, but kind of touching on what both of you are talking about and what you wrote. I mean, Hoffman, the inventor of LSD, comes from Switzerland.
Thank the goddess.
And talk about experimental perception or just a filter.
The doors of perception.
Yeah, there you go. And it's still legal in Switzerland technically. So
and also I passed a shop today that said we love drugs, but let's not forget Hoffman was inspired by the fact that the rye in the Middle Ages fermented, causing hallucinations, which is why they thought of witches and werewolves and all this other.
But that did happen. But Hoffman was inspired by that? I actually didn't know that.
Yes, he was, because the fermented rye, and then he took that calculation to invent LSD. I mentioned this in my cookbook, by the way. I had to do a lot of research because drugs came before alcohol, and they should remain after, in my opinion. Anyway,
Yes.
So
sure.
yeah, Dan and I have great plans for the future in Switzerland, where Dada mostly began, as well as certain psychologies, of course. And we are planning big movements for both January of next year and also the capital of culture in Le Chaux de Fonds. We are planning to just imprint ourselves on the face of modern culture because it needs to happen.
It does. It does. So do you grow up in Chaux de Fonds?
Yes, I was born there, and I grew up there. And after I kept moving and kept coming back.
There you go. Because the word is in Switzerland. I'll say when I talk to other Swiss people and they'll see a few shows and they'll see Chaux de Fonds, the word out there is that a lot of artists are moving there because it's, I don't know.
Cool.
I know from Switzerland. I mean, maybe it's more affordable than some of the other cities.
Yeah, you have this aspect. I mean, rent are cheaper.
Yep.
Also, the city has always have been very left politically.
Okay.
So it always have been communist or socialist, and it's 130 or 40 years. It's like that. So maybe it's more tolerant than somewhere else.
Okay.
And it's also very quiet.
What was your experience recently in Tunisia? Because you went to Tunisia doing poetry and working with artists there. How did that happen, and what was that all about?
That was also an insane experience. It was through a Kaleidoscope installation we made at the festival Bad Bon Kilby in Switzerland. And this Tunisian guy named V.I.T.R.I.O.L, he was invited in Switzerland. We met, and he told to me about what was the situation in Tunisia. It was still kind of possible to create, and they could organize 3 editions of a really underground noise art techno, really hard festival, really experimental.
Which we never think of, like Tunisia being this place where this is all going to happen, and we need to know about this. So they invited you, and what happened there? What went down?
Oh, so first we took the ferry to go to Tunisia. So that was a very
from Sicily?
No, from Genoa. Genoa.
Oh yeah. All right, so that's a long trip.
It was a long trip, 30 hours or something. And so you have time to think about your situation, your condition, about history, and about why we can do art and other people can't. Or
it also must be a beautiful trip because you're going by like Sardinia and Corsica, and you're going by all this stuff. Wow, all right.
It was beautiful, but very kind of paradoxical.
Okay, like what were you thinking? What was the paradox?
The landscape is beautiful, but you think about all the people sinking in the sea, for example, or you think about history.
Immigrants dying on these small boats.
Yes,
oh, you have time about why people. I mean, why we are allowed. Swiss people can go there, and the Tunisia, and then on the spot we discovered that they are very angry because if you want, they did this revolution, they fought a dictatorship, and 10 years after, it's getting back to almost the same kind, and
like so everywhere, dictatorship.
So it's what? It's like a Robespierre situation. If the oppressed become the oppressor. I'm actually not following Tunisian politics. I'm curious. Modern Tunisia.
It's getting again very authoritarian.
Yeah, the whole world is, right. Okay.
Yeah, but you have no more Senate or assembly, or you have a new law that for kind of conspiracy of the state, you can go minimum 13 years in jail until 66 years.
You were also saying that they're receiving a lot of immigrants from places for putting them in these massive concentration camps in Tunisia.
Yeah, because they receive lots of money from European Union to block the migrants, and they make kind of camps.
Right.
Yeah. Libya,
but that's so it's interesting because obviously Germany being a lot of the EU, you have different powers in the EU, and so in a weird way, because I read this article, the rise of fascism, say in Hungary. is they were also a filter to Germany and the wealthier places from the Arab Spring, and so that ends up leading to like this fascism. Even though it's like, we'll pay you to be the final filter so they don't come in, and then of course then Germany is like, oh, we're now really progressive, but they have these walls that they're putting up.
Anytime I have to cut in. How about allowing racist white South Africans into America?
That's a whole other story.
This is just so.
He's pandering to his white supremacist base.
Well, and right now, I mean, 8 years ago, he's talking about all the terrorists he's now doing billion-dollar deals with. You know who we're talking about, the orange ass clown. The problem is this: there is more land. And people could live there, but instead we have 182 million women and children refugees from everywhere, and that is an undercount. And then we have people that are trying to escape from brutal regimes, including, wait till the American exodus happens. I might be the first one to start that one again. And the thing is, it is all back to what it always is: colonization, patriarchy, the oligarchy, and the disrespect for human fucking life.
It's about pulling the ladder from behind you, because we're all refugees. I mean, making it full circle, before agriculture, we were hunter-gatherers. We were constantly moving around the whole fucking, until like, wait, now I'm going to stop and you can't come in. I mean, really insane. You know what, though, Dejan, where I run into a lot of Tunisians, because that's why I asked if you took the ferry from Sicily. The Sicilians are kind of open to the refugees. And because, well, they're outlaws, and they have the middle finger towards, historically, against fascism. Of course, they're mafia, they're their own thing. But in Catania, for instance, there were a lot of Tunisians, and they were kind of taken care of, and they weren't hated on in Sicily. It was kind of that was interesting. But
and the point is this: every country loves people that will be slaves, not admitting that immigrants are the hardest working people that want only to live a life free of the possibility of daily death and to support their family. This is what is so controversial about the pathetic nature of how the entire world now is being treated. Because, basically, we are all refugees, not to quote Tom Petty, but I will. I don't want to feel like a refugee. And this is what's just so sad. And this is why art, music, and literature are so important everywhere. And that is the place where protest happens, at least until we're all sent to Guantanamo.
Yes. All right. So you go to Tunisia, and
when was that?
It was in 2022. We could go.
Oh, wait a second. So when I was in Chaux-de-Fonds with the Zumi OE,
it was a few months before,
because there was that Tunisian woman who got very drunk. I remember that night. So she was getting. That was part of the same troop, right? The same group of people.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
They could come after during the summer.
And you blame her for getting drunk?
Oh, I don't blame her, but we all different people, and we all filter alcohol in different ways. And some of us get more exaggerated, and some of us, it's like a switch goes off and they're a different person. So unfortunately, in this case, it was the latter. But
what happened?
I hope she's okay.
What was the event in Tunisia? Can you explain what happened there when you were there? How long were you there for? What did you do?
We were joining for a festival named Sailing Stones Festival, but we arrived 2 weeks before because I was building a Kaleidoscope of Nothingness over there. But instead of bringing things with me, I brought a few things. But we created art from the trash we found in the dunes, on the beaches, and we started to collect material, to paint, to create ropes, and to create this kind of
environment,
giant book, or whatever you call it, like a big brain, and we tried to dig the kind of collective consciousness. I mean, someone told me it was really touching that the kaleidoscope and what the energy it brought, it was like authorization to be for them.
Great. Wonderful.
And that was beautiful, and we discovered this massive, crazy mix between noise music and metal, really hard
Interesting.
stuff. Yeah.
That's amazing. You know, it's good to know about this stuff. I'm usually curious to know what's out there, but I have to be honest. I don't know really much about the Tunisian music scene.
Metal, noise, or otherwise.
Yeah.
And the cinema scene is mad too. It's a little bigger. Maybe you remember, Lydia, we met in Paris. Youssef Chabi is a pretty big filmmaker from
Yeah.
Tunisia. But they all work together, lots of solidarity, and yeah, it's crazy.
How's that? I mean, being an artists are often threatening to dictators. I don't know why they're so scared of artists. So how's that? How's that?
The truth.
Well, that's it. But how come? How's that working for those artists? I mean, do you know any artists who are being like I know some Chinese artists who've gotten a lot of trouble in China. Is it something similar to that in Tunisia, or are some of them being attacked?
They're getting scared, yeah.
Okay.
Like for example, at the same place we did the festival 3 years ago.
Yeah.
They made an electronic music festival, but not as extreme at all. A few months ago, and everyone was arrested. They arrived like
Oh my God.
300 cops, and they arrested everyone, for example.
Yeah.
Everyone who was there to perform at the festival.
Sorry?
They arrested people who were there to perform at the festival.
Yeah, and the audience. I don't know if they arrested if the artists were arrested, but everyone from the audience.
What?
And, from the audience? Okay, I mean,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, that's terrorism, and you know, do you know Makoto? We had him on the podcast, Makoto Kawabata from Acid Mother's Temple.
Yeah,
they're banned in China because of the name Acid, and they had a whole tour in China booked. After it's booked, they're banned. And then the guy there's a label that was putting on that says you can't come here, you're banned. And then the Chinese government went around and arrested all the promoters that booked them before they were banned. They went back in time and threw them in jail. I mean, like.
Well, I mean, it's not so bad in America. Yeah, all they're doing is not giving visas to people that are sent to perform there.
Mm-hmm. Well, Napalm Death, they were just in town, and you know, they had to deal with a real headache with lawyers and stuff like that. So it's yeah, I don't know where.
Well, maybe it's time for another poem in that case. Dejan, maybe it's time for another poem.
In this cloudy field of melting snow, lullabies are filled with empty talks. That was a weak, slow echo, like a dance in some crawling flames. Childhood lullabies, trying to feel the flow of unwritten philosophy's speech. That was not about lunatics in asylum. They were just mad humans in paradise, in this shape without forms, in a square where angles disappeared, in this bottomless, endless well, there were fragile silhouettes escaping in the drying sun.
Oh,
thank you.
That was cool, and the duration was. I didn't expect that, and that's very performative. I appreciate that. Let me ask you: do you write these in English originally, or do you translate them from French?
Depends. This I think I wrote in English for a kind of a musical project. It was like kind of like a song, kind of love song. I don't know.
But in general, you write in French first, and then you do your own translation, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's.
So how many books do you now have out in France? And I think it's important that you get some bilingual or translations into English, of course. But now you just released a new book, and these books are beautiful because they're very sturdy, hardback, black covers with the title. Really nice paper. And what company are you dealing with this? And is this your third book with them, or what's the story with that?
It's my second book with them. It's originally it's an artist named Augustin Rebetez. He's a pretty big artist in Switzerland and all over the world almost. And he has this company named Label Rapace. I don't know how to translate this.
You don't have to.
And he published poetry book, some drawing books, sometimes photography, and a few little short. And it's my second book. The first book was an homage to this bar named Antabuse, where I worked during 15 years, and it's just a portrait about outcast people, about situation I lived, and it's not really a full story. It's a kind of many different stories.
Like sketches of your life experience working in this bar.
Yeah, and the book that just came out last week, it's an homage to someone I was very close to, a beautiful Dharma bum, a guy who he left everything behind during the 70s. He left his family. He was an artist, but he abandoned his art, his family, his kids, his dogs, and he had a life of wandering during until 2021 when he died. And I was really close to him during more than 20 years.
Oh, you were telling me about this. Yes.
Where was he traveling around? Where was he a nomad of?
He was mostly kind of living in La Chaux-de-Fonds in some, how do you say, in some attics. And he was mostly walking between Basel and Geneva and France, not all over France until Dijon, kind of. He was doing a kind of yeah, he was eating out of what people give him or out of the rubbish bin, and he was an ancient erudite. He read everything, but after he had and yeah, it's an homage to this beautiful man that was also sometimes annoying. So I tried to find a good balance of, and it's a book about him. Yeah.
How did you come to work with Kit Brown? And let me just describe Kit Brown does a lot of the graphic woodcuts. He's the one that designed this Confront the Cockroachy poster for me, for us. And he makes T-shirts with incredible wood. I mean, it takes a month for them to dry. Woodcut prints, which from clothes he finds on the street or with recycled. And he has so much artwork that I've told him, actually, he's the only artist I've ever said he needs to stop making art and start selling what he has, including prints on suitcases, photographs, woodcuts. How did you begin working with Kit Brown? Because he's a very important part of the Kaleidoscope of Nothingness and the graphic visuals that are a part of that.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's him and me, the Kaleidoscope. I mean, if we talk about visual, so yeah, we met in 2009 with Kit when I was in residency at Cité des Arts in Paris. It's a pretty big place where you have lots of ateliers. And Kit was working somewhere else, but he was doing for some atelier open door where you could go and visit. And by chance, with my ex-girlfriend and two other friends, we walked in this building and
you saw his art.
Yeah, and this little guy and his art, and first we decided maybe to share one afternoon of work or something, and now it's been 16 years.
Because Kit also had a very interesting life, that he lived in many different places. Was he born in Africa? Where was he born? Do you remember?
Malawi, in Africa.
Yeah, and then he traveled a lot as a young man. I think his father was in economics or something, and then ended in Paris. But he's so prolific, I would say obsessed, with these images, which is why when there's going to be a Kaleidoscope of Nothingness, it is really almost every inch of the venue is covered with stuff that you or he create with words and images and posters and photographs and suitcases and whatever else there is to put images or words on.
And it is most of the time linked with performance or concert.
Yeah, of course.
It can work as an exhibition, as we will do.
Well, as we're heading into the future of taking over galleries, record stores, bookstores, etc. So with that, I think, I don't know what more to say other than we continue to do what we do. I'm very happy to be working with you because to me, word is the living art. And yes. I see how it impacts people because it's very necessary right now, especially in a time when we're just inundated with so much bullshit and lies. That the truth and poetry And the beauty of words, or even the aggression of words, has to come out to direct emotion in another direction, to heal the hole in people's heads and hearts that are being made by these political, corrupt cockocracies.
Yes.
That's why we work together. All right, Dejan, we're going to let you go because we have to get up early tomorrow and continue what we're going to do. And Tim and I are going to do the intro.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Lydia, for having me on your podcast. It's a big honor, and I'm so happy to work with you since.
Absolute. And I'll see you tomorrow. And tomorrow we have a day at the lake conspiring about bigger and better things.